Because we haven't held people accountable, we've been operating at 70 to 80% capacity, and it's making us bleed millions of dollars.
He's been on a roll.
You can do it better. Go.
No.
Welcome to the Premium Mindset, the weekly podcast where homegrown entrepreneurs and business owners, Evan Ritchie and Cameron Bodden, share the good, the bad, and the ugly of modern entrepreneurship.
Evan, we're sinking and I know.
You only got some bubble gum?
As owners of two of America's fastest growing and most disruptive companies, Coconut Cleaning and Green Mango Pest Control.
We're spending $175,000 a month on marketing, and we're contacting a lead one time.
It's so bad.
Stay tuned for real stories, struggles, insight, and advice from real entrepreneurs in real time.
At the end of the day, you could have the best looking business on a social media or on paper, but when you get into the nitty gritty, the aesthetic and the look means nothing to the business. The most common intro to a conversation about any business under Hype Farm is like the truck, the van, the look, right? And then what's funny is that we have people that have left here and they're like, yeah, I think a thought could be for some is that, yeah, it looks nice, but it's a cluster here. A lot of people, when you're this big, leave your business and have all the greatest things in the world to say. There are people who say, yeah, the vans look nice, the apparel looks nice, but their systems suck, or the finance was a cluster. And now you're coming out and saying, hey guys, guess what? You're right. And here's a look into me trying to fix that and me trying to have these systems and operations in the business that finally supports the aesthetic and the outward appearance.
That's why I love this podcast. And I hope that, I think we've gone pretty vulnerable, but I think we could take it even a step further because and just by saying our systems here are great, but they're broken at the same time. Mm-hmm. And you can call it 80%, you can call it 90%, but if 10% is broken at this size, it matters.
Yeah.
The branding, the truck, the marketing, the uniforms, that's perfect. Well, guess why it's perfect? Because it has the least amount of hands in the pot. And that's what just as you're saying, I'm like, gosh, man, that's what it is. And what I've learned over the past couple weeks, and we had a 4-hour meeting on Tuesday, 2 days ago with our managers to just let them vent their frustrations. You allowed me to vent my frustrations, which was awesome. And I feel so good after. So thank you. And that was healthy. And it was a last minute thing. And it was we had one meeting planned for one reason. Yeah. And we went in there and just said, hey guys, we can feel the tension in the air. I know you're feeling the pressure from me. And I'm glad because I got something to say, but I'm sure if I have something to say, you have something to say. And what was really cool about that, a lot of their frustrations were my frustrations. And that's how I know the people around you, your managers that you've chosen, they want to be there with you, right? And you chose them for a reason. And I love you always give people the benefit of the doubt. Hey, there's always two sides to the story. Let's hear what they have to say. But what they were talking about, as I've read over the Sabina was taking notes for the meeting. I've read over them a few times now. And I think what I'm hearing is that a lot of people are frustrated that we allow a manager to act one way and another manager to act another way. And we pick and choose, right? We pick and choose what we hold Mickey accountable for, or what we hold Cody, or Cody, or James or whoever, any of these people. It's not consistent, and they're frustrated with that. And then here I am on my side. I feel like I deal with the same problems every single year, and that's frustrating for me because it's dude, we have this system in place. If we just followed the system, 90% of our problems that we're dealing with wouldn't be here.
Right.
They're frustrated with us that we're picking and choosing, and I'm frustrated with them that they're picking and choosing systems and processes.
Right.
And if we can just uniform everything and just hold the line, I've been saying that a lot lately, everyone, let's hold the line. I feel like you can no longer justify that if someone's an amazing salesman, but they have 10% admin duties, you can't just say, oh, they're a great salesman, so I'm going to let them, be subpar with their admin duties and get their reports in late or not do them. You just can't do that. And you need to be able to go to that manager, whoever it is, and just say, hey, I know you're great and I hate it, but I need you to hold the line here and do these reports, or else I can't have you in this position because people count on them.
In Green Mango, you pride yourself on tri-block technology and legitimately being the best at pest control defense, right? There's a difference 13 years ago where Cameron and Dusty are spraying a home and you're like, man, 2,500, 3,000 square foot home. It's 30 to 45 minutes, non-negotiable, because I'm doing every nook and cranny and I'm spraying. The people that listen to this are business owners, right? And they pride themselves in doing great work. So how did you balance the difficulty of holding on to what made you guys quality and also wanting to grow and trying to sustain quality while simultaneously accounts are pouring in?
I think we did some things right, but where we went wrong is we were burning through people because Dusty and I were so crazy about, if you're talking about the service,
Yes.
people didn't do the service. And we saw that, they averaged 15 minutes and they're putting down 5 gallons of product and they're just, they were just doing everything but tri-block technology. We would just fire them and let them go. And if that meant us getting back on the truck that day and finishing the route for them, I would do it. And I remember my buddy Rob, like, why are you firing people so quickly? Like, you're such an idiot. Because I'd call him like, dude, I had to take a route today. He's like, Cameron, patience, like, relax, go find another technician before you just unload on this guy and release him or, let him go. And finally I got smart enough to do that, but like, we just wouldn't put up with it. I'm not saying that's the right way at all, but we held the line, but we were going insane, like literally insanity.
Yeah. And that is the question.
But that's where, as you hire managers and people in that position, having the expectations written down perfectly, which is where I'm weak at, because I don't love getting like, I feel like I get granular and then you take it 10 steps further, and that's needed. And that's not me. If I give you a checklist, you could probably go add 3 things more to each line item of what needs to happen. And that's what you need when you hand a department over to a manager, because they need to see it. And then what I learned yesterday from Tommy, and I shared this with you, and you would think that it's like just completely overboard, but he's just saying, in order to have any system and policy put into place, you have someone auditing that system and policy to make sure that it's being implemented. That's the only way you keep your sanity as you grow. And to me, that was really refreshing, because I'm going crazy right now because I want to trust this guy, and he might think that this system and policy is better, the way that he wants it. And most of the time, these people don't tell me. They don't tell you, and then I come back around to it 3 months later, and it's like, yeah, I made that decision. You told me to, make decisions without coming to talk to you. It's like, yes, but no, it's such a gray area. Yeah. And that's why I think having it written down perfectly and encouraging your people, Tommy even goes to the extent that, hey, if you're going to change a policy, it needs to be written down with exactly what you're changing, what the new policy is, your signature and my signature. So there's no like, hey, we were talking in the hallway and, I brought this up and, you agreed on it. Like, that needs to go away.
I love this because I feel like when I have people message me on Instagram and they're like, hey, I have this detail company and I have, a cement pouring, I have an epoxy business, and I'm struggling between pouring more money into growth, but also being afraid that like I'm just doing more work and covering up other people's bad work. And that's what I am trying to highlight as well, is that when you scale and when you grow, having the things written down, you've done that. 2 days ago, you referenced the meeting and you're like, man, we need to go over, this principle, make sure that routing's being done, make sure that the front door script is being done. And I moved into this office over here and I found a paper from 2016 laminated of the front door script and the checklist basically of services that they need to perform. And I'm like, dude, I texted you, I'm like, man, you've been addressing this to my knowledge for 7 years, 8 years. You're like, Evan, it's been 13. And so what are some things that you feel like if someone's sitting here in this chair and I'm saying, hey, Cam, like I wrote it down, what's the next step? Like, how do I hold people accountable and not go crazy firing people, but like be patient and give timelines for growth and getting something down? Like, it's written down. My guy knows how to pour epoxy now, but how do I go take my route and trust that his route's going to be done right?
If I didn't have a podcast with Tommy yesterday, I'd say, I don't know, because I'm going crazy. I don't have the answers, but what he's telling me, and I'm holding on to it because it's my little beacon of hope right now, because there's nothing more frustrating than Okay, maybe I could have got more granular on this, do a better job at training them. And, like you always take it on the chin as a business owner. Like, he sucks. It's on me. Like, it's on me. And so what Tommy's saying is, hey, for every system and policy implemented, you have someone audit and report that if it's being done or not.
Let's take the customer service department, right?
Yeah.
And let's say that to provide a quality premium experience for people that call in, we want no one to go to voicemail.
Right.
Meaning I'm willing to staff the amount of people that the volume of calls that come in, there will never be a call that will need to be sent to voicemail between 8 to 5, right? So is it the CSR manager who oversees that? You're saying independent
third part, like they work for you. And that's what's sad. I said, Tommy, this is where I have a problem with this. Isn't that why I'm paying the manager? He said, get over yourself. Like, it is what it is. Everyone's always going to perform at 80%. No one's like us. We're talking about the 4%, and then there's 1% of the 4%, and then there's 1% of the 1% that are just never satisfied and always pushing. Like, you can't expect your people to do that. You hire a manager, he's going to perform at 80% until you have an incentive with him, until you hold him accountable. And so that's what it is. It's a third-party auditor for not just some, every system and policy that you implement. And I love that because then it's like, do I want her auditing this system and process? Well, if it's not important, don't have it. And that probably cleans up a lot too.
So you send them over, hey, these are my 15 policies and procedures for CSR and routing and inside sales.
Yeah.
So it's not like every policy has a person attached, right?
No, like scale it, of course.
Just be clear for the guy that,
good. Yeah, and they're taking sample sizes. If they audit 25 calls and, 20% of them are wrong or they're not following it, you have enough data there.
I love that because you had Kayla Cisco come in, maybe 4 months ago. And we said, hey, look, this is what we think is going on. And we just simply want you to take a certain batch of every department's work. And then that gives us an indication that if you pull 10 inside sales calls and they're not mentioning tri-block technology, or they're not mentioning that they get charged before the initial service, 2 and 10 are never doing it, then we could probably say every 10 calls you're going to pull, there's going to be 2, and we need to fix it. Mm-hmm. How do you justify the expense of
how much money has Kayla Cisco saved us so far?
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
No, seriously, it's at least $200,000 in 6 months, and she makes under $100,000. So I think it's safe to say she's going to save us $300,000 to $400,000 this year for $100,000 worth of work. So how can you afford not to have that person?
And I want to be clear too. Do you love this, or is this?
No, I hate it, okay. But it's what it is as a business. Talk about rovers. I stood up in our Tuesday meeting and I said, guys, it's embarrassing that we have to staff on Saturday 6 extra guys to stand by waiting for 6 out of you 50 technicians that are going to work today to call off because you either got drunk the night before, you're sick, something happened, or you just don't want to come into work today. So that's embarrassing. I said, I never deny you having time off. If you request it, and I'm not talking a week, 2 weeks, if you give me 3 days notice that you don't want to work, I will give it to you. Just show up when you're supposed to work. That's all I'm asking. That's it. But it's embarrassing as a company that we have to staff, on average, Saturday and Monday are 2 highest call-off days. And that's the value of having a great CFO, which is what we've talked about, being able to track these numbers. And we need to take it a step further because we know how many days off like someone has taken, but we're not getting that data to our tech managers and saying, hey, in the past 3 months, this guy's called off or no-showed 8 times. We just know about it in the moment, but when you look back on the chart, it's like, wow, this guy's our highest offender. Hold the line, have a talk with him, give him a warning. We want him to succeed, but if not, he's got to go. There's plenty of people that want the job, and it's holding that line. And that's the same thing with the managers. We want the manager here, but if he continually has the audit department sending him emails of, hey, I need you to check the alerts. Hey, I need you to get the service agreement signed. I need you to build the initial before it goes out. And he can't implement that policy with his people. Like, I can't keep kidding myself saying this is my guy, even though he's amazing at this.
I think what's happened in inside sales can highlight the importance of this, right? There's a difference between policy, procedure, and KPIs. And very, very few people know how to differentiate between a standard of performance versus a way of doing the performance, right? So let's take a look at last year. We said, hey, inside sales manager, we want you to have an 85% close rate. And you and I lived and died by like this report that would go out and we'd see 85% close rate, which is a KPI. However, when we started going a layer further to analyze and review the policies you've put in play for the amount of times a lead should be contacted, we started to find something. We started to see, hey, 30 inbound calls came in, only 10 made it into the CRM that holds all the leads. And when we started to question the policy, the KPI almost didn't matter anymore because the 85% was irrelevant because the policy of how many times a customer should be contacted, how fast they should be contacted, and the policy on what you do with every lead was being totally ignored. And so 85% meant 85% of what? We don't know. And so to all the business owners out there, it's one way to go about your business saying, hey, we want high job tickets. But if that job ticket is at the expense of a fundamental principle that sustains your business being compromised, which is, okay, like if you sell air conditioning, units, and you want like, hey, we judge our salespeople by the sales volume, okay? But how they're installing it is just terrible. It's like the high sales doesn't really justify the amount of insurance you're going to have to be paying out when people's homes start getting damaged because of the quality of the work being done.
I think that's what might have been the hardest thing to hear last year as a lesson that we learned, is that probably 4 years ago, we saw there was, after 5 days, salesmen didn't want to work a lead because it's much harder to get a hold of. And so we're like, let's pay a little bit more money. So if they're making $20 a sell on, 1 to 3 days, we said, hey, we care about these leads. Let's give them $25 or $30, whatever it is $5 or $10 more to work the old leads. What we learned this year is that they would almost gamify it to see how long they can let a customer last before they call them on 5 days, and string them along. And it's just like, man. So what did I learn from that is that if you have a higher pay scale to incentivize bad behavior, people will do that in order to get them more money.
Yeah.
And that's what's so disheartening. And it's the same thing with KPIs. With like, our goal is 95 to 105% completion. Well, what do you think that people are going to hit every single month if their minimum requirement is 95% to get their bonus? They're going to hit 95, even though 5% of $2 million is a lot of money, and that means a lot to us. So when you're setting your standards, when you're setting your KPIs, when you're setting up your pay scales, make sure that you keep this in mind. Like, hey, am I incentivizing bad behavior? And two, like, what's the minimum to get the bonus? And am I okay with them hitting that minimum? Because chances are that's probably all they're going to hit.
Right. And these are the small little principles that when they are not followed or when they are not accurately measured have cost millions of dollars at this point because of the long-standing history you have of how long you can keep a customer. So more than just like, oh, we missed out on this revenue this year. You missed on that revenue times 4 years because you can keep a customer that long. And so moving forward, I would say a priority that's been put in front of us because of our own wrongdoings and inability to look at the right things. We're going to the foundational principles and systems that support the business and saying, hey, rather than 85% close rate, rather than fast completion rate, we're making sure that the job's being done right and that all the policies that make that customer have the best experience are first being followed. And then whatever KPIs follow after standards are followed is what we're now going to measure versus KPIs first, then standards.
Yeah, a good catch would be like, we're spending $175,000 a month on marketing and we're contacting a lead one time.
It's so bad. KPIs don't mean anything. Because here's what sucks is that the good people that are
KPIs if the people report on their own KPIs. KPIs mean something if they're reported from a third non-invested party.
what I was gonna say is that KPIs mean nothing if the standard and principle, the vehicle for which a KPI is performed, is what comes first. Because close rate means nothing if they're leaving out thousands of leads,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah,
but
if
if
they're
you
only reporting on 10% of the leads.
correct, millions of dollars has been lost over the years by putting KPIs, basically the measurement of what we think is important first, over the process in which we do it to get that is coming second. And so what sucks for the people that are here now is that all this cleaning is going to get done, right? This morning they said, hey, we just had all these crazy cancellations.
Right.
But just a week ago, it's like, hey, I just want to be clear that like all those push saves, they're about to cancel.
That you told me was the new way of doing it.
The second we started performing audits on the standards and the foundational principles that support the business, we found out we were operating at 70 to 80% efficiency. And at this level of business, it's losing millions of dollars.